strong. Positive mindset, a world-class foundation for you and me. Getting to know young youths and athletes and talented coaches and so much more. Champions in the making, no pain, no gain. Bringing you levels to the table. Warriors, teaching warriors. Everybody, welcome to the Dalton Grand Show.
Welcome to another episode of the Dalton Grant Academy Talk Show. And it's an honor for me today to have one of my training partners. We've had the like of Linda Christie, Darren Campbell, but this person has been my teammate from juniors, from youth, let's say. We went to the European Juniors, went on to breaking into the international, to the world-class level, and he's won medals in every single major championships on the planet in track and field. No other than Colin Jackson, CBE. Welcome to the
show. Thank you, Dalton. Awesome. It's really nice to join you. Really is. Yeah.
It's a pleasure. I mean, all those years, as you can see here, I've got my world map. So, over here I have Brazil. I'm doing my geography now. Up here, United Kingdom. This is round where we had Germany, Poland, all these places. The Hague, where I won my first, indoors medal. And then let's say over here, we have Australia here, where we had our Commonwealth Games pre-camp and going on to Auckland, this little place here, which was in 1990. So we had so many years together and a great journey. So let's go into it, Colin. Your youth, what inspired you? Is it sport? What sport? Sports in general. Was it sports? Was you into music? What made the Colin Jackson the man he is today? Or inspired you to do sports, I should say?
I guess many things. I mean, like yourself, Dee. I mean, I was brought up by Jamaican parents, and I think it's an island that loves sport anyway, produced so many great sports stars, as well as intelligent people and musicians. So it was a very cultured island anyway, that we kind of grew up around that situation. So I think we were really lucky in that sense that we were exposed to a lot. But I can certainly remember one of my parents' big idols was a man by the name of Don Quarry, great sprinter. Yeah. And of course, he was Olympic champion over 200 meters, Commonwealth champion over the 1 and the 2. I mean, he was a great athlete. And I remember my parents watching him run at the 1976 Olympic Games in Montreal, and how excited and enthusiastic they were about his performance. And I remember thinking, wow, they don't even know this dude, yet they're still so passionate about his success, his achievements. I wonder what it'd be like if that was me, But you put that in the back of your mind, because let's be honest, you never, ever, ever truly believe that you're going to be a champion. You just want to do anything that you do because you're having a great time.
I thought he was born to be a champion, Colin. I can't believe that you're saying Colin Jackson didn't know he was going to be a champion. I mean, I remember the earlier days how, organized and, strict you was with yourself, So
yeah, but I didn't believe. Yeah, when I say didn't believe, it's like, to be a champion of anything, I guess you've got to be the best of what you do on this whole planet for that particular moment in time. And when you think about yourself as an individual, you're just a tiny speck on this planet. So how can it be you? You can dream of it being you, but I don't think you really expect it to be you. But for me, what I did, I always put myself in the best position I could be in. So I always trained hard. I always stayed focused. Like you just said, I was very organized in what I wanted to do. And wherever that took me, I knew I was happy, because I couldn't have done any more. So I could always go to bed at night knowing, you know what, that was the best you got out of me today. And sometimes you're a winner come time when it happens, and sometimes you're not a winner. So I always just had that real sense of reflections that this is okay where I'm at.
So why, obviously I'm from London, growing up, born and bred, and you're from Wales. So what was the challenges like in Wales? I mean, because I remember when I first met you, because sport gave me so much, because meeting people around the world as well as in Europe as well, well, the world is Europe, I mean, in the United Kingdom, because when you're growing up, for me in Hackney was everything for me, and sport took me out, and I grew as a person. So what was it like, for you growing up in Wales?
I think you're right in a sense that you get very kind of localized when you're growing up, aren't you? You don't really feel like, there's not many boundaries that you go across in that sense, global ones. You just kind of stick to your own routine, your own little neighborhood. It's where you're really comfortable. And for me, being in Wales, I think I was always lucky that it's funny because there's not many people that live here, right? In that sense, in relative terms. And I was always kind of heralded as this new kid on the block who's kind of good at all sorts, from cricket to athletics to rugby. So there was a lot of focus on me anyway. And I just took it in my stride. I just didn't take it seriously. I think this is always the most important thing. I didn't believe my hype. The papers were writing all stuff about you, but I never believed that. So growing up, I was just having a good time.
So what age was they writing about you then, Colin? What age was
my goodness. From I was like 13, 14.
13, okay. And that's rugby, cricket.
Yeah, because my school was doing very well, very successful. And I was already kind of, breaking records and being outstanding. And people were kind of pointing the finger to watch me. This is someone you need to watch later on. And also, I think where I was lucky is that I was I guess what a journalist, Rob Cole, a friend of mine, he really took a good shine to me, and so he kept me in the press quite a lot as a young lad, and that was good. That was good.
Wow. So, like I wouldn't say rivalry was different. Everybody thought that everything happened in London. So what was it like? Because I remember first meeting you, I didn't realize there were so many black people in Wales, to be honest. And, different accent, obviously, because in London, from Hackney, giving it a bit of Cockney, you get what I mean, mate? And so forth. And yeah. And then I remember like hearing you speak to the first time, I was saying, I couldn't believe it. A black person speaking like that. What was it like for you? Because obviously I know you was aware about London, like meeting people from London. Was it a big rivalry for you?
Well, do you know what is interesting? Because down here, that's how I heard black people speak, right? So this is how we speak. So it was nothing that was too unusual for me. And also, when you watch television, black people spoke like you. So I was used to that kind of tone as well. Yes. So it was always good, I think. I was always intrigued into what it was like being in the London life, certainly the East London life. What I loved was the opportunity for you guys, I think, to be connected still more culturally to the Caribbean. So I love my music, and
that's what I was going to go to. I was shocked, but that's what connected me with you. I couldn't believe that you knew like lovers rock songs and you were just reeling it off. I remember back in the days we used to go over tune for tune, like Silly Games, so many different songs we used to come out with and see who know the most lover rock songs. Yeah.
And that still doesn't change. We still do that now. But I think that was one of the things that I think always would connect us. So of course, we had the color of our skin, we had a sport, but also the sense there was that culture as well, that we were from the same place. The only thing was we were born like 160 miles from each other in that sense, but that's the only real biggest difference. And so I kind of like, I loved it. I loved the connection that we had and all that kind of nonsense that was given. That's my front door. Can I grab that?
Yes, no problem.
Yeah, 1 second. This is what it's really like.
So as you can see, Colin Jackson is busy as always. He's gone off to answer his front door, in the middle of our conversation. No other than Colin Jackson, the CBE.
Okay, yeah. Just do this one, just sitting in here. Yeah.
Okay.
So So one of the things that was really interesting, I think, about the whole package of it all was the fact that we had that true connection.
Yeah.
And I think that connection, I think, was always going to be lovely, that we could stick together, deal together, trade together, work hard together. And we had that community connection already, which was great.
I mean, definitely, because I mean, like music, like I said, and also food, because we used to discuss the kind of food that we eat, you know, cornmeal porridge and our rice and peas and jerk chicken, you know, and even I remember some people attempting to cook dishes and was having competitive, especially back in the days with Linford and you know, everything was a competition, mind you.
Do you know, every training camp was a competition in some shape or form, wasn't it? I think it was, we were always lucky that we could have that sense of connecting with each other on so many different levels. And of course, obviously, we were in different sports in athletics. Yourself, high jump, I was a hurdler, Linford was a sprinter. So there was no that real sense of being competitive on the track. So we could share a lot of things with each other without being competitive in our real deal, our real interest, if that makes any sense.
Even though you tried to beat him in the 60 meters, but we won't go there. Well, you didn't do too bad because you went on to win the, I think the European indoors, didn't you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
you did a double. So, I mean, have you always been fast? Is it, where would you say the genes? Is it mommy, daddy, you know?
I think my mother would always, I think my mother would always claim it, but then, you know, I always say to them straight that anything positive from me comes from me and anything negative comes from my mother and father. That's how I always say that. That kept everybody quiet and everybody happy. But, you know, I think I was blessed. I think one of my coach always used to say to me, Malcolm Arnold, is that I couldn't have chosen my parents better. Because they gave me the genes, the genetics, to be where I am today. So I guess I was kind of lucky with them.
Yeah, the mindset. I mean, what I want to find out is that what would you say? What would you say? What made you that person you are today? Was it your parents, uncle, aunt? I know you've been inspired. What you talked about by the likes of, you know, Don Corey and so forth. But what would you say in your eyes, though?
Most probably, I would say there was a sense of wanting to do well. I think that's the first thing. I wanted to always do well. Whatever I put my mind to, I wanted to do it to the best of my ability. Then secondly, I guess I felt my parents' good guiding, allowing me to do what I wanted to do, but supporting me a long way also made a huge difference. And I think that real support was what I needed.
So did you have any challenges with racism coming from Wales? Because like we were saying, there's not many black people.
Yeah, I think
challenges, or did your parents?
I think I was luckily kind of like steered away from it because of my success quite early. But I remember when I chose between athletics and cricket, I felt that I couldn't do what I wanted to do in cricket because of my colour, was slightly going to hold me back. Okay. And when you're going to suffer from that.
Why would you say that? Where?
Well, come to selection. So, you know, in athletics, you select yourself. Yes. You don't really, you know, if you're successful, you cross the line first. Nobody can really argue whether you're going to go or something because you're the best. So you select yourself. But I did like the fact in cricket, there was a time when I was the captain of my school and 3 or 4 of my school colleagues made their national team. Yet me, the only black kid in the school, didn't get selected for the team. So it makes you think, ouch, okay, there's something up here.
Yeah. So, I mean, you supported so many people in your career as well, helping them. And I know you don't like to talk about it mentally and, you know, physically and passing back, you know, what you learned on your journey so far.
Yeah.
What drove you at the time, even when you were still competing, to support people?
I think it's that sense of I was supported. So I feel I should always support somebody else. I think it's important, I think, even if you just kind of concentrate on one person, give that one person benefit of your life experience. So if every individual gave their passed on to one other person, then I think we'd be in a much better place. So I'm kind of happy that I've always had that opportunity and ability, because I've had the financial ability and the mental side of it as well, you know, taking the journeys along the way, you know, having an amazing adventure. I like to pass that on.
So do you know, like, how you passed on, you've learned so much and you've traveled the world, you achieved so much.
Yeah.
And obviously in the black community, where do you think we're struggling? You know, the structure, trusting one another, working with one another. Where do you think or how do you feel that what we need to do to kind of better ourselves?
I think you're right. I think that sense of trusting each other is really important, and giving each other the opportunities, and not blaming our color or our culture for people's behavior. Sometimes people are just bad, and you've got to take the fact that they're bad. But you shouldn't judge a whole culture just because you've had a couple of bad experiences. And I think that's what happens a lot in the world per se. So I think for us, it's really important that we stick together as a community. If we can give as many opportunities as we can to as many people in our community, it'll make a big difference, because those stepping stones fill people with confidence. And when you're confident, you know, you'll always strive to be a little bit better. And I think that's always going to be important for us, just striving to be a little bit better.
Definitely striving to be a little better. It's like when people say that black man time. But I say, if you say black man time, don't blame black people, blame the slave masters.
You know,
right? We couldn't be late, could we?
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
No, but I think when you go through life and your experiences, it's about people going through different challenges, you know, people putting their lives on the line, you know, losing livelihoods as well. So it's down to you to take that on board and honor that, because we are here today, like you said, for the sacrifice that our parents, you know, had to endure to kind of support us to go on and be mature to handle situations. Because I do believe that if our time, we went back now and we did then, you know, what people want us to do when it comes to racism and walk off, there would be no Colin Jackson, there'd be no Dalton Grant, there'd be no, so you couldn't really walk off in that time. We had to handle it, not break us, and show through success and, you know, the credible or the pioneers that we were at that time. And I think, do you really think that they tap into you in your knowledge and your, what you've achieved, how to handle that? Because a lot of people say because you're, you know, a successful athlete, it doesn't mean you can coach. I totally agree, but you have to assess them. You have to see if they can coach first before you come to that. And especially when you see most of the athletes now who's head coaches, and how come they can coach at a high level just because they didn't achieve what you achieved? How do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, my coach was a triple jumper, and he coached sprinters, shot putters, high jumpers, long jumpers, you know, to world and Olympic levels. So I don't feel like just because you're successful in one event, you can't translate that across to another event. I think one of the most important things is be able to communicate. So you can have all the knowledge of the world, but if you can't communicate that across to anybody, then it's pointless having that knowledge. So you've got to be a strong educator. One thing I was told, that there's no bad pupils, there's always bad teachers. So you've got to work out the way to communicate your knowledge to an individual, because everybody picks up their own thing in their own particular way. So we've got to really take that on board and have that balance. And I'm not arrogant enough to say that just because I was a successful athlete that I can coach. I think I can certainly mentor very well and pass on my experiences and knowledge and have an opinion of circumstance and situation, and trying to connect that with and have empathy with the story now.
I mean, Colin, I know that, for instance, we know that because let's be honest, I've looked and helped you, and you bounced off ideas of me when you were hurdling, vice versa in the high jump as well. And you told me what to do. So, you know, we obviously that, you know, we do listen and take in information because we've achieved and we know how to execute it. So there's people out there that hasn't, but they've gone on to be great coaches in that way. But I do believe it's down to if we really want to coach. That's the thing. I don't think it's a thing of whether we can, it's if we want. And this is why I come back to the sport now. When you see the sport in the situation it is, clearly we know there wasn't the right people for the job, because we know the likes of, you know, Andy Norman beforehand, the support and the love that he had from the sport, because we see how many people was successful under his how can
tutelage,
I say? And this is why, what do you think that the sport needs now, really?
I've always said that it's more important that we have people involved in the sport who love the sport and who don't need the sport. It's very different if you need something, because you're more likely to toe the line just to pay the bills. So you need people who actually don't need the sport but have a passion for it, because I think then they will line up the right people for the jobs and the right people to make a difference. And I feel that's always got to be paramount in everything that we do. Yeah,
that's what I believe, Colin, because for me to be who I am, I had to be around Colin Jackson. I had to be around Linford Christie. you know, Frankie Fredericks, Mark, because you need to be around the best to become the best, to draw it out. But I find out a lot of people get in that position and they don't want to put the right people around them. And the people I see, it's like, we know when we were athletes, you know, we had fun at the right time and so forth, but a lot of people is living through them. I feel like the coaches now, it's about me. No, it's not about you, because our culture doesn't. It's about the athlete, you know, and using your experience to elevate them to achieve, you know, the ultimate, whether that's the gold medal in the Olympics or just being an international athlete. You know, there's standards, and I think there's levels of standards and achievement as well. Yeah. And I don't think people understand, Colin, as you know, the hard work that goes into that. And not everybody's body, even though you're talented, is you know, suitable to hard work. And a lot of people didn't realize now in training here, I remember you could not do squats. Why couldn't you do squats, Colin?
Well, I'll tell you, there's numerous reasons, but I had bad knees, for example. My back wasn't really lined up properly. The way that my body, even now, I struggle to squat properly because of the way that my ankle joints are fixed. So it's all really very, it's not dodgy, it's not the word I want to use, but it was just the way my body was, unfortunately. But
you know what's so brilliant, right? How did you, you know, train to that high level and work around that? Because everybody thinks you have to do squats, you have to do cleans, you have to do snatch. There's various exercises, but obviously you had to, you didn't, well, what age did you stop doing squats, or did you, how long did you do it for?
Well, I stopped heavy squatting because I could see it was to the detriment really of that. And then, but when you have a savvy coach, a coach that kind of understands you as well, and you have a great massage therapist that look after your body, and they recognize the certain elements that are causing you stress and strain, you've got to respond to that quickly. So I think what they knew straight away is that I was able to then do plyometrics. You know, I could do lots of plyos instead. Hurdling as a skill itself was also a plyometric exercise. You can imagine you're always running and jumping and running and jumping and running and jumping. Yeah. So of course I was getting lots of thigh strength just from doing that. And so you learn to combine lots of different things to make the circle complete. There's not just one way to complete a circle. You can hook things up lots of different ways to make it work for you. And I think I was lucky enough that happened for me.
Definitely, because why I said, so what age was this? Was it when you was a youth or junior, or did you carry partial squat until when you was like a senior?
Yeah, no, I was still squatting when I was senior, but I had thin bits and bobs. I had times when I was growing a little bit, my knees were hurting, so I'd stop squatting, I'd have to do something else. So even I got up to senior when I was still squatting, most probably, when I was breaking world records, I was still doing some sort of squatting, but not long after that, I stopped.
Why I say that, going back, because I don't know if a lot of people do, maybe people have read about Colin Jackson, but he was a very decent long jumper. Did you touch 8 meters? I'm not sure, or just
shy, 796, just shy, yeah.
796.
Yeah. But I had to stop that for injuries, because of injuries. You know, I loved it. I jumped as a junior, so I was still.
Was it
ankles?
Ankles.
So because I had quite a bad technique of off the board, and so Malcolm decided that it was more important that I stayed fit and healthy and was a great high hurdler, than for me to actually take on 2 events and end up in 2 4th places in the world that easy. He said, so we'd rather me get fit and just win 1 gold medal than take on 2 events and end up with no gold medals at all.
So give me a little inside your relationship with Malcolm Arnold.
Yeah, Malcolm knew me as a 15-year-old. I met him first of all doing Welsh schools, and then I asked to join his group at 16, just going on to my 17th birthday. And the week I joined his group is the week the whole of his group went warm weather training. So for a week, he'd gone, the whole group had gone, and I was left on my own. I had no coach, so I had to look after myself for that one particular week, which was funny. And I thought, have I made a mistake here now? But then as soon as I came back and we came back and I started working with him, he became like a second dad. I saw him so much. It was just brilliant. Yeah.
So the relationship obviously was very successful, going on to world record indoors and outdoors and winning major championship medals. You know, we could do so many. But what would you say was so special between you and him? Did you have any disagreements? Did you have, obviously you would have, but
I listened to him. I listened to him. That
Did you
was the
break
most
up?
important
Did
thing.
you stay with him all the time? What?
I always stayed with Malcolm all the way through, but of course, it's every conversation was always two ways. So he was never always just the leader of the pack. I had to contribute to my training as much as he had to contribute as a coach. And as I got better, that relationship kind of changed a little bit. So I got more and more like more and more I took control of training, and less he did it, and more he became my eyes. And he would kind of be the man that would just polish all the elements of training. So when it came to that bit of it, he was the man that was like, okay, you need to do this, I think. And I'll be like,
In
yeah,
other
okay.
words, Colin Jackson started to know his body and know what he needed. So that's great. He was, you will feel.
Yeah, but also I learned myself about myself. So it was really important that I kind of knew what I was doing and how I felt. Yeah, you're right. But also I was becoming a master of my own event. So, you know, Malcolm was a triple jumper. So he never knew what it was like to run 13.9, never mind 12.9. Yeah. So I had to always have that sense of input into what I should do training wise and my body was feeling, and what I should do competition wise, because I knew how many competitions I'd need as well before I was really ready to take on the highest level, people on the highest level.
You did. So what was your challenges as being an athlete? What was your biggest challenge, your own personal challenge to achieve?
Most probably my biggest challenge would be to, well, everybody would say this, most probably to stay healthy. That was always our biggest challenge, just to try not to get injured. But also staying focused on always in the job in hand, because you can imagine you're training for 9 months a year for a 3-month season. So it's a lot to ask of young people. So it's trying not to be distracted, of course, from the lifestyle that really you've achieved from your performances. So you try not to, get too carried away. And I think that's one of the best reasons when we used to go off to Australia, for example, and train, because then it took us away from our home environment and those distractions. So I feel it was that was always going to be the toughest thing, is to stay focused all the time, because it's never easy.
Because I thought I knew you, and I'm shocked, Colin. And you know what? You taught me that you grew up with people and you don't know them. You really taught me a lot, and you have to handle that, because didn't really know about, your eating disorder. I knew that you ate only, and I thought that was because of, you was just losing weight to get to a certain weight to compete. And obviously about personal things, other things that you was holding within yourself, and you couldn't be yourself. And it's kind of funny, because I would always be open and speak to you, and ask you, because we was like that. But I didn't really, know Colin as our, that side of him.
Yeah, I think lots of times people may not know because they never gave themselves the opportunity to know. So lots of times, especially in our sport, as you very well know, is that a lot of the time we're preoccupied with ourselves. Okay. So we're always looking at ourselves and thinking of ourselves. And sometimes when we're having a conversation, when we could be having a conversation in Australia pre-training about what spikes we're going to wear, or what session we're going to do, and then once we finish that, we'd be going, where are you going to go out now? We're going skating, we're going to do this, we're going to the beach. So you never get that real opportunity to have, like we're doing now, this sit down one-on-one opportunity to speak. So you never get into that really deep conversations that could open a whole can of worms. And adding to that, sometimes it's really difficult to open a can of worms, because sometimes you don't want to hear what people have to say.
No.
So
their opinion is their
don't
opinion.
talk to them about it. Yeah.
Because why I say that, because for me, me, I had the hardest thing for me was like partying, had to make that change. And I couldn't understand where I grew up, going out, enjoying myself. Yeah. And that's the way I enjoyed myself, but it didn't go with my sport. So I had to actually change my lifestyle. So my whole look in sports was really about me and Dalton going into a different environment that was strange for me. Because as you know, I used to dress when I used to like my crocodile shoes and my tiger skin shoes, that was back then, yes. Yeah. And when I came in and I met people from, different parts of the UK and in the world, it was different, because obviously I was a small-minded person then. I'd say definitely ignorant at that time. Yeah. To the world. Yeah. And to people, because it was like my way is the only way, and how I enjoyed myself. Everybody should enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
So it's so funny that when getting to know you, I was blind to certain things because I thought everybody was like highs. So I didn't see that. I had tunnel vision and how I was going to enjoy myself, like I said. And I like to go party because I used to drive down to Wales sometimes and stop off and go to a nightclub here and go over there.
Yeah.
But then obviously I realized what I had to do as a person to better myself and sacrifice that. So this is why I was saying, what about you, what you had to sacrifice? Because when we spoke, you always spoke about, I just want to have fun.
Yeah.
I just want to have fun.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was always one of the things for me that was going to be important. I just wanted to enjoy my time because I always knew time was limited. So you've got to have as much fun as you possibly can within your sport, I felt. And, who would not enjoy traveling the world when other people are putting their hand in their pocket to pay for you to spend 3 months in Australia? Who doesn't enjoy the fact that you cross the line and you get a gold medal and, all of a sudden, with the bonus you got from that gold medal, you can buy a house in Florida. I mean, those are the type of things that I found were just like breathtakingly luxurious, but I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I guess I wanted to also share that fun with all the people that helped me get there. So, yourselves and Paul and Jamie and Darren, people could come to my house in Florida and enjoy it because I think everybody put their time and effort for me to have that house. It wasn't just about me. It was about us all. And as you knew, on many occasions, we shared so much together and experiences together. And so, if you think about it, Dee, they couldn't pay for the accommodation that we put up with. My house in Florida at one stage had 9 people living in there.
Yeah. Yeah, we did it. But what's so beautiful about it, Colin, is that I had when I look back now at these kids, we had so much fun, worked hard and played hard. I remember the pranks that we used to pull up. I remember that, when we was in the 1991 World Champs and we hide in the bushes because we were staying in that resort and we scared like Simone Jacobs then, after she was running, she couldn't move, obviously, because we had white sheets hiding in the bushes. And I mean, that's so great what we have. And now I look at that and really appreciate that. And I know the different pots of Colin Jackson's, the differences of him. I know the different pots of Linford, everybody, what we grew up together at that time. Yeah. You could never pay for that time or get that time again. No. What shocked me I know the insecurities and the strengths of Linford, know the insecurities and the strength of you, the insecurities and the strength of me as well. Yeah. And it's just seeing us now, as old men, and what we've achieved and using our success. And you in your own right, Linford in his own right. Even Darren Campbell was part of, our training legacy, I would say, will benefit. There's a lot of athletes that came through Jamie Bolch, that how, we train together, and I just want to know, that's what I keep saying, what would you give to any young and up and coming athletes? Just like you say, to be yourself, because obviously there's certain things was private to you, your sexuality, your food disorder. Yeah. So what would you give to them? Because I think you got it right. Because why you got it right, you broke the world record, you won all the major medals in the World Championships. Yeah,
I would say, choose. I mean, I was lucky. I think I chose good friends, first of all. So I had all you lot always on my side. It didn't matter what was going on. I always felt like you lot had my back. So that was the most important thing. And so once you've had good friends, keep committed to what you want to do and never lose your aspiration. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want to achieve, you anything you want to set your heart on doing, just go for it. So that would always be my message. You're only young once. Don't waste those years. Don't waste them. And I know it's quite hard during lockdown because it feels like everything's a flaming waste. But no, don't lose your aspiration. Keep going, keep working hard because things will turn. And when they turn, you better be ready. And I think that is always the most important thing.
Definitely. So what did you do in lockdown, Dan, since you went to lockdown? Because obviously it was hard. So how did you motivate yourself through lockdown?
Well, you know me well enough. Like I kind of half enjoyed it. I enjoyed the peace and quiet and just sitting in my house for a time and just relaxing. But then, at the end, I was lucky enough to get an ITV commission and then working on Dancing on Ice. So that took 7 months of my life in lockdown. So I feel I was really blessed that I had that opportunity to learn to skate during lockdown. Rare thing to do, to work on a television show and learn a new skill at the age of 54. Of course, you know, who would have thought that was going to happen? When I was lining on, you know, on those starting lines in my mid-20s, who would have thought that years come to, well, 30 odd years later, I'll be kind of skating on TV for your living. That makes some sense, right?
Definitely, yeah. So what would you like your legacy to be, Colin Jackson? CBE.
I would like people to say that I was a good guy that enjoyed life and living.
Wow. Wow.
Nothing too complicated, nothing too complex, just as easy as that. You know, I just want to say that if anytime you thought of me, just went, yeah, cool guy, and boy, didn't he live his life.
Did you ever thought of actually going into politics or anything like that?
No.
Because, you know, so much you've learned and you inspired and people look up to you and what you've overcome. Because this is what this show is about. It's about successful people on a big platform that has a big voice if they want to have that big voice. Because a lot of people, I know, you've led through the physical sense of going out there and competing and carrying yourself as a great ambassador throughout the world. And it doesn't stop there because, you know, it's transferable skills, especially when you're doing now reality TV shows as a percent on the BBC. So what, have you thought of anything else to do?
No, not that kind of. I think, you know, I think I'd always want to be one of the people that were there to enable, to pass on their knowledge in whatever field. And, you know, I always say to people, spend your hours being good and kind. That's the best thing you could possibly do. You know, being human is okay as well. You have your moods, and everybody got to accept that sometimes you can be miserable and sometimes you can have things that you don't particularly enjoy. But on the other side, you know, I think make 90% of your life kind and good and well-spirited. And I think that kind of radiates to people. You know, if you put that out, it comes back to you. So just, I would say, just remember that. Just, you know, feel comfortable in contributing to other people's lives in a positive way. Most important thing.
Right. So now, like I would say, Colin Jackson, CBE, I keep saying that, CBE. Well done. Sir Colin Jackson could be in the future. Great, you're going. What is your routine, transferable skills? So obviously from sport, what was the routine preparing for a tournament? What was your day? You'll get up, prepare. Give me your preparation leading up.
Yeah, I think
you're in the final the day before. Let's go.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to believe in your preparation. I always felt I prepared really well. And then so breakfast would be really light because I'd always be nervous and anxious. So I couldn't eat that much through the day anyway. But I'd also try and make sure I did have some kind of fuel, some kind of energy. So I'd have something that was quite light and easy digestible. And that could literally be anything. So when you have that in, you know, something in you that's like that, then you've got your fuel, you're ready to go. Talk to people that are going to motivate you and inspire you, because they're really important too, because they'll tell you stories about real positivity. And I think that's always good to keep that clear mind. Get to your venue of your performance half an hour earlier than you think you should need to be there. So you can just get to your position, you can settle, you can just relax before you need to start your warm-up. And once you start your warm-up, you know you're starting to get in that zone. So the most important thing is to give yourself that little bit of breathing space so there's no panic that goes on in your life.
Definitely. Now, obviously, everybody would want that mindset, that elitism mindset, corporate world. Give me, what can you offer to them?
I think your life experiences, you can always offer to the corporate world. I think the challenges that you go through on a daily basis, what it's like to prepare well, what it's like to stay focused and concentrated, what it's like to win and then stay there. Longevity is always the most important thing, because especially in the corporate world, you want to keep that longevity to keep your customers engaged with you, etc., etc. So it's really having the skills to be able to put those things in place. So I think the corporate world and sport really have a close connection. I've always said to people, if people like Bill Gates or Sir Richard Branson had the tiniest amount of physical capabilities that I had, they would be champions as well because they have the right mindset.
Right. So mindset is the key, because the mind can go wherever you want it to go. and the body
Yeah.
can't follow. But the body
Yeah.
can only do what it can do. That is
For
it.
sure. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So that is always really important, that this stays strong and positive, and also matches the ability. Because if your mind is far greater than your ability, you'll only set yourself up for downfall, and that means you'll always have your life feeling a little bit disappointed that you didn't achieve. So I wouldn't say
that, Colin, because you know, like obviously food important, right way for the muscle to function.
Yeah,
but you say the keys in mind. So how did you prepare the mind mentally? How did you prepare? Did you?
Well, the fact that I prepared physically well, and I think that's the most important thing, because that gave me confidence that I can do what I'm capable of doing.
Time, if you had to go training at 9, it'd be 9, or things that you had to do, you make sure you done it.
Yeah, I mean, you respect every single element. So, if you have to be at the track at 10 o'clock, you get to the track at 10 o'clock. And if the coach says he wants you ready at 10:30, well, if it takes you half an hour, get there 10 o'clock. If it takes you an hour, get there 9:30. So you have to have that respect of everybody in that sense. And that, again, then that kind of, it makes you get into a groove of what is necessary every single day for you to achieve what you need to achieve. So you never disrespect anything that anybody does or says or puts out there. You've always got to be in it.
Right. That's well said. So who was more stricter, mummy or daddy?
Neither. They were both the same. Yeah, they're both the same. I mean, you get different from.
Or was it that you didn't listen, Colin?
No, I always listened. I always listened, but I get advice from different sides. So they were two very strong individuals. So they both gave their advice and were always honest. I think that's the most important thing. They didn't butter us up or make us believe things that we couldn't do or we could do. They were always honest. That's key.
Yeah. So in our time growing up, we didn't have social media like they have now. And it was all about hard work ethic, manners, respect.
Yeah.
So obviously we learn through the physical way. Where now, this generation, is more technology and is more seeing the end results and not really understanding truly what goes into it. And the longevity of our generation.
Yeah.
What would you say to this generation now?
Well, still keep themselves very focused in what they want to do, really, and make sure they have a balance of their life. Make sure every element of them they are happy with. Think through everything. So I generally mean that. So don't, just take things for granted, or say stuff that you think, oh, I'm saying that because that's what they want me to say. No, just think of what the ramifications are of what you say, how you are, how you appear, because nowadays, unlike our days, whatever you put out there is staying there for life. And one day you will have grandkids, and you've got to think of, are you proud of what your grandkids will be seeing of you? If you are, you're on the right track.
Because, obviously when we were young, it was just around your family and friends, that was it. But now with social media, if you make a mistake, the world, because it could go viral.
Yeah, and the world
has go viral in our time.
Yeah, the world has an opinion. So you've got to realize whatever you say and do, the world will have an opinion.
That's right. Because you see what I realized, that a lot of people are motivated by money. And my mum would always say to me, don't worry, of the materialistic things, because how did they get it? And if you get it in the wrong way, that is it. And like we'd have a little dust up and fight when we were younger. Now, it's sad, these kids are taking lives. And they've got more opportunity now. And it should be respect to support one another and be inspired to do what that person do, the right thing. But it seems like they're more inspired by, being a bad person, and then when they want to walk away from it, you can't, because, what's happening in the youth generation, you're being stabbed or someone's being killed. So it's really sad, for that generation now. Do you think the parents, do you think the schooling, the government, what are we doing? Because obviously they're not addressing it properly.
You can't put your finger on one thing. It's a whole package. You've got to think of society as you would think of your training. You can't just do circuit training and think you'll be a great high jumper. It doesn't work that way. So it's the collaboration of every single element, from the education in schooling to your social structure, to your class, all those things got to come together. But I think one of the things we've got to stop thinking about is where our differences lie. And we need to start making sure we understand that what we have in common. that's what made us lot friends from back in the day.
Yeah.
We never looked at our differences, because if we looked at our differences, me and you wouldn't be speaking today.
No.
But the fact that we never did that way, we did the other way. We went through what we have in common and what we enjoy in the same sense. So if you have that commonality with people, then you have that connection. Even if you're miles away from them, you know, you could be an Arsenal supporter and a Tottenham supporter. You could talk to each other because you both like, I don't know, Dua Lipa or whatever right now.
Yeah.
You know, that's
No,
the
you're
thing that
right.
you have in common.
But my I can't believe when I was like, my passion was like competitive, the physical side, right? Lamppost.
Yeah.
I can jump higher than you. We'll find a wall to jump. We'll find a tree to go. I see the passion in PlayStation. I can't believe the passion that they show in PlayStation and trash talking now.
Yeah.
They don't even want to do something, and they won't put that work in what they love and what they want to do to achieve. That's going to make them better as a person. The only thing you're going to be PlayStation is you're going to improve your thumbs. Yes, you can make money, you know, by this gaming, but the physical experience and change, you're not going to get that.
Yeah.
It's going to make you be lazy. There's a big world out there, and you know, it's killing those six senses. Because I think in our time, you always sharp up the brain, the sight, you know, the physical agility. You worked on those things.
Yeah. I think timing was different. So, you know, life was different. Our experiences were different. And that is what made us where we're at today. And so, unfortunately, it's been a huge leap forward in what technology has done and what technology has brought us. So that, of course, makes life very difficult. So we can't really give them a genuine sense of what you can do, what you can't do, because we generally don't know. We never lived there. You know, I watch my nephew watch one screen of Netflix while he's doing some other stuff with his mate on the on a computer game or something like this, and then he's doing his homework at the same time. Definitely. And then he gets 14 A stars. So how can I then say, well, you can't do that? You know, you shouldn't be doing that. Back in our day, that would have happened. Yeah. So again, that's what tends to happen. It's the way that life goes. And so, we just got to somehow try and educate them in a way that we understand more than what they understand, because they do get it.
Yeah, because obviously when you're going for that job, they're not going to pay you for your qualifications. You know, it's how much money you can make for that company.
Yeah.
You know? So anyway, on that note, I'd like to say, Colin Jackson, I want to give you one wish, as I always like to give people a wish, or I give my magic wand. You know, first, I'd like to say, actually, name 3 of your favorite British athletes.
What, current or past?
Current.
Current would be 3. Jake Whiteman.
Yeah.
Andrew Posey.
Yeah.
And Katerina. Yeah, Johnson Thompson. Yeah.
Right. On an international level now, 3.
Yeah. 3. Carson Warholm. I think he's just phenomenal as an athlete. Grant Holloway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just such an incredibly talented athlete. And still I'd say Shawnee Miller-Weebo. Yeah, I think, again, an incredibly talented athlete in so many fields. So, yeah.
Great. So if you had one wish now, we're going back to the wish. If you can go back in time, go forward in time, what would your wish be?
Oh, wow. Do you know, I would say, oh God, do you know what? I can't really complain too much about anything. I can't say I wish I was more successful. I can't say I wish I'd be happier, because I had all of those things. So I guess it would be. Do you know what? I'll take it forward. Do you know, I wish that our sport of athletics still keeps getting superstars and keeps motivating youngsters. I think that's really important. If our sport can keep giving youngsters aspiration, that's what I'd wish for sure.
Well, wow. What can I say? Because that's what it's about, passing back your knowledge to inspire the next generation. And, Colin Jackson, CBE, is a pleasure to have you on the show and giving your insight, and always upstanding young man you are. No, but thank you so much. Anyway,
So, thanks a lot, T.
take care.
Dalton Grant Academy, work ethic, mentally strong, positive mindset, world-class foundation, elite athletes, youth, never give up, a talented coach, meeting talented athletes equals success, champion in the making, no pain, no gain, bringing new levels to the table, learning about the standard as words versus physicality, warriors teaching warriors.